Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Brendan and welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new here, it is great to have you, and today we're going to be making the case that Bitcoin has bottomed. 29K is going to be the lowest that we see Bitcoin for a little while, and that it's indeed secretly bullish. Now, I know I've been making a lot of bearish videos about Bitcoin lately. We'll talk about that in just a second and what has changed my mind, but I think that the information that we're about to go over is something that you probably have not seen or heard of so far, so I think that is going to be pretty pertinent to the topic of Bitcoin and why this could be the bottom, at least for the next couple of months, maybe till the end of this year. So if that sounds interesting at all, make sure you stick around for the entire length of the video, as there will be important information discussed the entire way through. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive on into this one and break this down. Now, I know I've talked a lot about the bearish aspects of Bitcoin, this head and shoulders that we saw on the daily, breaking down into a descending triangle and a death cross and volume falling off and a lot of other factors. However, with Bitcoin showing this most recent price spike, not only does it look like we are breaking out of this descending triangle to the upside and wanting to retest this 50 EMA on the one-day timescale, I think that there's some more information that goes into this. So I want to reference a tweet that I read over from a user named Byzantine General, and I think he made a lot of sense and some really good points here about how there are items being overlooked when just looking at the technical analysis of Bitcoin from like a pretty fundamental basic level. So what he does is he obviously goes into the price a little bit, but also looking at the long and short accounts to the global ratio, open interest, and then aggregated funding. This struck me, I guess, in a light that I hadn't thought to look at it, especially the open interest part. You know, as Bitcoin is falling, open interest is rising, which would make sense because people are either interested in moving it on or off, and especially with a lot of people wanting to buy the dips, which is what we're seeing at this level of Bitcoin. People are fairly comfortable buying Bitcoin around that 30K area, and we're seeing that because every time that Bitcoin has gotten down to this level, there have been a pretty large amount of buying. Again, we tested this, and then we immediately went from, if we get the measuring tape out, we immediately went from 30K up to around a 36% jump up to 41K. We hit this again, had about another 30% jump the next time around here, which is what I want to highlight right here. The second time we had about a 30% jump. We hit this a fourth time, or a third or fourth time, and immediately saw another 27% jump, and now we just hit this again, and we saw Bitcoin have around, so far, a 16% jump. So people are definitely really comfortable buying Bitcoin at this level, as it is bouncing fairly strong here. I think what could hold the future of Bitcoin at this level is the EMAs, on top of Bitcoin really needing to hit a new higher swing low. So for a while, we've just been hitting lower swing lows, hence the descending triangle. But if Bitcoin can break above this range right in here, and I would say that this is right around 35, 36K, if Bitcoin can break above that and hold and get candle body closings above this range, I think that this will really discredit this descending triangle theory, especially if it can get above like 41, 42K. If that happens, I see no reason that this isn't a bottom for Bitcoin. You know, maybe it's not the macro bottom that Bitcoin will ever break below again. However, in the short term, I really see that if Bitcoin wants to break above 36 and then maybe 41, 42, I don't see any reason that Bitcoin, number one, can't test at least 50K again, if not new all-time highs after that. There's obviously, as we just looked at, a lot of open interest in Bitcoin and where it's at right now, but also this would be a really good technical sign that people are extremely comfortable buying here, and on top of that, it's breaking out of some of the most bearish scenarios that we have seen on Bitcoin. Now, there's people arguing that this is a bull trap. There's other people arguing that this is just a giant bear trap. Ultimately, if Bitcoin hits these higher swing lows, it will have looked like this was just one giant bear trap. People thinking that this was going to be a whole lot bearish than it really was, including myself, and this could have just been a stop out area. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and take a brief look at the volume, the indicators, and the oscillators on this one day, and then we can break this down just a little bit more. So of course, on the RSI and then the MACD, I know people always ask about this, there's really not much to see on here. Bitcoin's sitting pretty neutral, as it really has been pretty docile for a little bit. And going back to the RSI, there was some argument that this could be a potential bullish divergence on the RSI, which I think that it very well could. we are looking at this macro swing low and then maybe this one over here. I don't like just how separated these are, but nonetheless, I think that on top of that, you do definitely have that bullish pressure building because we have all of these consistent lower swing highs just building and building and building. And again, the way that I look at this, and I think the easiest thing to compare this to for people who don't understand what the relative strength index is, and again, I'm very hesitant when I make an analogy like this, is that imagine this is like a technical analysis version of a falling wedge. Pressure is falling, we have those lower swing highs, but it's not always a bad thing, or I guess it is a bad thing until it's not. Obviously, this is going to have downwards price action and downwards pressure until it has that price explosion to the upside. So I don't like making candle chart comparisons to this kind of stuff, especially indicators, but that's probably the easiest way that I could explain and relate and correlate those two. So hopefully that makes sense. But also, we are seeing potentially lower levels of negative momentum coming to this on a macro attempt to the downside. Now, of course, the first one being here, second one being here, potentially the third one being here. So what this is saying is that upon every attempt to the downside, the bears are getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And by the inverse of that, the bulls are theoretically getting stronger. So I do like this argument, and if this is the case, and this is triple bullish divergence on a daily RSI, this would be huge. And obviously this would mean that there is a massive upside move coming for Bitcoin, because this goes all the way back to like the end of October, beginning of November. And I mean, that would mean that this was like almost a 9-month in the making massive bullish move coming. So going back to Bitcoin, obviously the levels that I'm looking at here are these previous resistance levels now turn support. So the 50 EMA on this one-day time scale is going to be a big one for me. Also, this previous swing high around 36K. So ideally, this is going to be around 35K, 36K. The 200 EMA, which is going to be at 38,500. And then finally, the last level of resistance, which is going to be 41,000. Now, this one is a pretty big one. We saw it as resistance on the way up, rejected it very hard, ended up breaking through it, and now what was previously resistance, we broke back through it. It's going to stay as resistance. So until this breaks, those are the levels that I'm looking at. If that does break and somehow we want to start rocketing, this is a very volatile range for Bitcoin. I think that if Bitcoin breaks that like 41, 42K area, I really don't see any reason why it can't go back up to the floor of this head and shoulders and test that $50,000 area. So ultimately, again, I know I've been making a lot of bearish videos on this stuff, but Bitcoin isn't in the worst of scenarios. Previously, there was me ranting about how I saw no way out for Bitcoin. This looks like it has some options. It definitely has some options to work with here. I am accumulating Bitcoin. I made this this conversation in a lot of my previous videos where I was bearish. I'm still buying cryptocurrencies. In fact, seeing this, I'm actually going to start buying altcoins again. Now, if things start going south, I might pause the buying on the altcoins, but I have been accumulating Bitcoin. I will continue to accumulate Bitcoin, and I'm now at the point where seeing some of this, it does make me a little bit more comfortable, and I'm now buying altcoins as well, Ethereum, and even some of the lower market cap altcoins alongside that. So that's really the way that in the strategy that I'm taking this. Again, I have the belief that in the future, Bitcoin is going to surpass, and most cryptocurrencies are going to surpass their all-time high at some point in the future. Maybe that's next month, maybe that's next year, maybe that's a decade from now. But I have the honest belief that cryptocurrencies will break out to new all-time highs in the future. And so with that belief, I am going to accumulate more and more cryptocurrency while it is, down over 50% from its all-time high, most of them. So that is going to be it for this video. Hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and give me a comment in the comment section down below. I really know that we talked about a lot of information and I tend to talk a little bit fast, but I want to know your thoughts on what the cryptocurrency market could do next. And I am looking forward to it. So once again, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.